So remind me when class starts to hit record. I'm hitting it now. This is a required component. I've sent that out, and it is graded. This ties in with the 15 discussion board points. This is 5 points of the discussion board. You need to come and participate. If you come late, leave early, or don't participate, then you will not get all 5 points. But what they do, and it's in the syllabus, they tie it in with the discussion board. If you are not here, you cannot get the 10 discussion board points, so you lose 15 points, which is a lot. However, if you miss an occasional class, you can watch this recording on the YouTube playlist, which is not the lecture series. I put a link on the home page at the bottom that says this is your YouTube videos, not lecture videos, to make the difference. And you can go watch this class list, the class video afterwards, and then you can complete the discussion board. And I found it humorous this semester. I don't know why, but in both my classes, 2 out of 3, everybody was doing the discussion board about how did the class go, and we haven't even had the class. So yeah, you guys were very, what do you call that? Not procrastinators, very proactive. You were already responding when we hadn't even had the class. So you always do the discussion board after the class, okay? So what they were asking about was the sync class. This is your sync class. We did a test class. I think 1 person or 2 maybe thought that was the meeting class. That was just to test your technology. Anybody could come. It was optional. This is your official class time right now. I do have 2 other classes on Monday and Wednesday from 1 to 2. If there's an occasional time you know you can't make this time, you could possibly come to one of those, but you're going to have to email me because it's a different, of course, a different code to get to go to training. And I don't want to send it out to everybody because I'll have everybody come into the wrong meetings accidentally. But that is a possibility. Also in that YouTube playlist is worked out WebWorks problems from previous semesters where I just go through and work the homework. They may not line up exactly, but you could probably find within that section if you're having troubles and they're not giving you any help in the WebWorks. Sometimes they have videos linked to it, sometimes they don't. I've gone through and I think I've worked every homework problem on video. So that's there if you need it. So any questions on the requirement to come to class?
No.
Okay.
No.
Seems pretty straightforward.
And those, I can tell you, I've done this. I piloted this here, and there's no 123 around the state that's just standalone online. And the reason for that is I've taught 136 online, Math 136. Passing rates for math are about 10% online. So there's a huge problem there. I think a lot of people think online is going to be easier. They think they're going to cheat. We have proctored tests. You have to come to campus to take the test and show your ID. It is not easier online. It is much more difficult. The passing rates are much lower online. So they added this component with the synchronous, and my passing rates were up near 68, 70% with this portion in there. The people that embrace this and they follow this pacing chart, they did excellent. Okay, but the whole key is you can't just come to class unprepared. You've got to have already done the work. If you do the preparation and you come already watching the lectures, already trying it, and just come with the questions, ready to just wrap it up and then go to the next week, you've got a lot of sources out there to help you self-teach, but you've got to self-teach. That's what online is. It's not easier by any means. You have to be motivated. You have to be able to self-pace. And if you fall behind, you get in a world of trouble. It's very hard to dig out of the hole because you are self-teaching. You can still use the campus learning centers. You can still come to office hours if you need extra help, but you're doing a lot of it on your own. Okay. So I mentioned this over and over because it is so critical. You must fill out your textbooks ahead of time. Fill in those blanks. Use the video lectures. The link is right there in learning activities, and they're by section. They're in small bits because it's easier to load. So it'll just say like a 1 for section 1, and then it'll have 2 or 3 underneath them. Okay, there's also extra videos that don't go with the book, but it'll go through the book. Then it'll say like a section 2, and there'll be 2 or 3. And again, it's not just one, you got to hit a couple of them. Now, they may not line up exactly with the book because they made a few changes, but most of them will line up. And it's an instructor, Becky in Warsaw. She's great. She's funny. Did anybody use the videos?
Yes.
Yes, I
Yeah, I
did.
watched a few videos.
They also have slides that are just stagnant that fill in the answers. Her videos, she gives you explanations. They're fabulous. It's like you're having a lecture, and you can do that at home. I mean, with her, it's very good. She'll help explain things. Okay. Then you go to the WebWorks and complete it. Okay. Already talked about the password. It's just like S Yancey 4, no caps. That's mine. I put it in for both password and username. No at ivytech.edu. And then you can change it. And then you come to the meeting where you're at now. After the meeting, you've got the discussion board. Don't work ahead on those because I will change them. There's been times, this is a state class. I don't put the information, they tell me what I have to give you. But there's sometimes when I think it's so outlandish what they've put in, I might tweak it. Like there's times the discussion board has said, go write a 2-page paper with citations. And it's the same week that a project is due that's a 2-page paper. To me, that makes no sense. So I will change some things if it is not in your best interest or going to help you pass this course, if I don't think it's a good activity to help you succeed. So don't work ahead on them. And you also have a quiz that's in Ivy Learn, and they're all in the modules. You just click on the quiz, and that will get you to the quiz. And we'll have time today. We'll actually go over the quiz. I think Zach's done it, haven't you? Maybe Deb, what's the other one? Maybe Dorothy's done it. A couple people have done the quiz already. They're usually about 5 questions. They're not long quizzes. Most weeks you get 2 attempts. The first time I think I gave you 4 just to get going. And on some weeks you will have Excel assignments that have to be submitted where you do Excel work. And they have in the book step-by-step instructions. I added the page numbers. So just get there early, do them, follow the directions. You can come to the Learning Center if you need help. And then you're going to have 3 projects that are major. In addition to that, 1 in each unit, and they're worth 100 points. So you want to start on those early. Don't start yet. I'm going to put in our region ones. They've got the state ones in. And you can also come to campus and get help with those. We'll have some workshops on those, and you'll have the 3 tests that are proctored. You can make appointments 30 days in advance. The first one is week 5. So probably next week you can make your appointments at the testing center. Okay, you do that online and you just put in the number of minutes the test. The first 2 are 90 minutes and the third one is 120. Okay, if you've looked at the grade breakdown, exam 1 and 2 are 15%, exam 3 is 20%. It is cumulative, it covers everything. Homework, discussion board are 10, projects and quizzes are 15. And it's the standard 90, 80, 70, 60. We do drop 2 of your lowest quizzes and 2 of your lowest homework grades. And you have a lot of questions on the quiz about your syllabus, so have it out when you take your quiz. Any questions?
No.
No.
Are all of the exams cumulative?
Somewhat. They say the first 1 and 2 aren't, but stuff tends to carry over. The skills you learn are needed anyway, even though they say they're not cumulative. Math skills tend to build.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Okay. The learning activities are in the module. It's the very first button you click, and Let me click over here to this other screen. And we can look at a module here. When you click on modules, okay, when you go to the modules, the first one will just be an overview. It'll tell you what you're doing for the whole week. Okay. And then you should just go through step by step. Oops, I missed one. There's your learning activities. Okay. This is your book sections in case anybody is still waiting for theirs in the mail. That's the book. It's just an e-copy of it. This right here is your links to the videos. This is the stagnant slides. I also put these in the announcements so you could get to them that way. And they confuse a lot of people. The hippocampus is a normal term all across colleges. Okay. So you see here is where it says 1, that means section 1 in the book. This is section 2 in the book. So when you click on it, it just breaks it down into little videos. And if it says 123 behind it, that means that goes with the book. So these 1, 2, 3 are go right along as video lectures. And when you open them, and there they are. Okay. Now the ones
So we only,
go ahead.
sorry, so we only do the 1, 2, 3 parts,
Well,
not the OAOs. We don't.
that goes along with your book. If you want more information on any topic, let's say you're really bad at rounding, you might want to go in and look at this.
Okay.
This is just extra stuff. If you want to learn more about using the calculator, there's more about the calculator. So sometimes more confuses people. They've just given you a whole bunch of resources. Okay. This is all just extra if you have an inquiring mind or you need help with something extra. These with the 1, 2, 3 are the book lectures. And then this would be section 2 book lectures. These are the book. This is extra stuff. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Nancy,
Yeah.
on the orientation for the WebWorks, it would not let me do that.
This is not WebWorks.
I know. I was just wanting to let you know before we got all the way there because I didn't get to do that part of it.
You mean you couldn't get in WebWorks? Is that what you're saying?
No. I got into WebWorks and I did section 2, but
the orientation. Yeah, I've gotten several
yeah.
emails that the orientation was closed. I had said the orientation asked you. That would be me. I must have put the wrong date. But I also had said the orientation makes you do a lot harder problems than what we have to enter. So I don't even like you doing the end part. So you can skip right over the orientation. I will change the date in case you want to go in and see if it helps you enter things. But don't do the end ones. Don't spend your time there because we will never enter things as complex as they're going to try to teach you. So you could spend hours like trying to learn how to enter very hard, complex fractions with exponents in the numerator and denominator and negative exponents, and we're never going to have to enter anything like that. We're going to have basic fractions, positives, negatives. We're not going to have these huge monstrous equations or anything to enter, and some of those end ones would just take a whole lot of time to figure out, and we're not going to have to enter things like that. So I will open it to make sure if you want to do the beginning ones, if you need help learning how to enter it. Mostly the fraction, you use a slash. I think is the one to figure out. The up caret or down is the exponent. But I will make sure I open it. But everybody's going to get a 7 that does their first homework. I just give them always a 7 because I think there's too much time spent on that one for stuff we don't do. But good point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, so we did so if you're waiting on your book, you already have it here. Back to the modules. This is the WebWorks, but I don't think it's not linked to your specific class. I don't believe it is. No, it just tells you where I put that button. I just put it right over here on the drop down menu. And again, if it's showing you a bad smiley face, it's not a bad link. It works. I've already got it open, but I'll show you. It just means that WebWorks is up and down right now because it's so busy. So there I'm clicking on WebWorks. And it's running so slow. Yeah, this is not a broken link. You just have to hit reload, and when it's not busy, it will let you in. Hopefully I'm still in over here. I got in, and I went to homework. I'm out again. It has been up and down a lot, but nothing is wrong. You just have to keep going back until you can get on. And what do you need to tell yourself? It's free. You saved $300, and I get a whole bunch of headaches. So
I'm still trying
hopefully
to get on still.
you're happy you saved $300. Well, hopefully whatever they bought yesterday or today, they purchased more space for Ivy Tech, they said. Hopefully that will help or something. I don't know. Somebody out there in the IT might know what they're talking about, but it's supposed to be better soon because this is probably the worst it's ever been. It's been slow, but not like at 10 in the morning. We've never had it this way before. But it's been really bad. But it's been up and down, so you can get on at times. I got on finally and added a couple people that were new. Okay. So we've been through the modules. I think that is the main things in the modules. Remember the test, you have to make a proctoring appointment. Discussion board we talked about. The quiz. Oops, I'm in the wrong module. We will come back and do the quiz today. But let's get to module 1. Now, a lot of people in last year, both semesters, some of my very proactive people, they like to do everything, and if they felt pretty confident they knew most of it, they would do their first attempt before class, because then they brought very specific questions to class, and they would be about the quiz questions, so then they could do their second attempt after they asked a very specific question, so they could make sure they got 100% on a quiz. So don't bring every question, but if you are fairly confident and you're going to get 10 out of 12, I don't mind if you're that proactive and you bring one quiz question and you've done all the homework. I think you've earned the right to ask me that quiz question. Pretty specific, because it will give you a different quiz question, different numbers, but you can ask me that one. But you do only get 2 attempts after the first one. Okay? So yours are going to look a little different because you're not an instructor. But we'll go ahead and ask the first couple of questions since we just went over the syllabus. How many proctored exams are there during the semester?
2, 3.
3.
3. Now see, this is a different question. I didn't have this question the last time I took it. Which of the following best describes the quiz policy? They must be completed by the assigned due date and no scores will be dropped. They can be done any time in the semester. And 2 will be dropped.
No.
They must be completed by the due date and 2 of the lowest will be dropped.
That one.
That is correct.
Yep.
What about the synchronous video requirements? It must be done on an Ivy Tech campus. You have to come to campus?
No.
No, you're not on campus. Is anybody on campus? Probably most of you are not on campus. It can be done on email.
No.
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 It's required time that you should log on weekly to participate in.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
This is a really tough quiz this week. So don't skip it. Don't make this your one to be dropped. Don't just not do it. Which of the following best describes the student's obligations for traveling to campus? You have to come once a week? No.
No. No.
Never, ever do you have to come to campus?
No.
No. Well, that's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Students are required to go to a convenient Ivy Tech campus or other acceptable testing site to take
That's it.
supervised
Yeah.
proctored exams.
Yeah.
And we are getting ready to go over some material, but I think you can probably handle this. A ratio can be expressed in many ways. It's a comparison of two like quantities. We can have 24 to 40. You can write it as a fraction with a colon. You can use the word to. You can make it into a decimal. It has to be in order. So 24 has to be the numerator, 40 the denominator, and you need it in lowest terms. So 24 over 40 becomes what?
3/5.
Because these have a common factor of 8. It is 3/5. You might quickly see this one and divide by 4. It's equivalent, but it is not lowest terms. And the one we will probably wait on is right here, because some of you probably have not done your reading and do not know what the old age dependency ratio is. Can anybody tell me?
It's the 65 and overs compared to the working class, which would be the 15 to 64s.
Very good. Was this Dorothy?
No. Ashley.
Ashley, I was going to say, I remember there's like 5 people have done their homework. Are you one that's done your homework too?
Yes, I'm trying to work ahead as much as possible.
I know Dorothy had, I know Zach had. Okay, so excellent. Perfectly said. So we are getting ready to go over that now. Hopefully we got time here. Yeah, we got time. Okay. Switching back. Okay, rounding is going to give a lot of people problems. There are help. You just saw there was videos and stuff just for rounding. Just a quick review. If this is the decimal, remember, you know, to the left you have your ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, so on and so on. To the right you add the thus. There's no ones place. It's a tenths, hundredths, thousands, 10,000s, and so on. And again, there's all kinds of help in the back of the book. There's all kinds of videos. For basic rounding, if the digit after the place you're considering to round to is 5 or greater, what do we do?
Round up.
Round up. If it is less than 5, we
I'm down.
by just chopping it off, right? Okay. If it is, you're going to the left of the decimal, you've got to fill in with zeros. So for example, if it's to the tens place, not tenth, we're looking at the 3 here. Since that number behind it is a 7, it's greater than 5, that would go up to a 4, right? But because it's to the left here, we have to fill in with a 0, and it becomes 440. That's because it was a 10. We can't just put 44. It becomes 440. Now the 10th, we would look right here, or right here at the 2. The number behind it is a 5, so that becomes 437 point what?
3.
3.
Yep. It went up because that was 5 or greater. And I hate to tell you this, but this is one of those, everybody say it's free. Many times in WebWorks, when it's a 5, the number after it, it's leaving it at a 2. You haven't lost your mind. You're right. The computer's wrong. Your answer was right. It's just going to count you wrong, and it only does it when it's a 5. So, thousandth, TH, so tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So we've got our 437 point. What is after the thousandths place? A 3, so what do? Oh, I'm writing it in the wrong spot. 437. What is it?
Wouldn't it be 437.260?
What's after the 9?
3. Oh, it would be 2.59.
Perfect. Because this is less than 5, we just chop it off right there and leave it a 9. Okay. This is the 100, not hundredth. So we look at the 4. What's after it is less than 5. So that just becomes 400. 10,000th. Well, 10, 100,000, 10,000th. There's a 0 behind it, so there I go, writing on the wrong line again. That's it right there. That blurry? Looks blurry to me. That better?
Yeah.
100th. Now we're looking behind the 5.
Oh, I will make it a 6.
Perfect. Okay. Now
So
there is
you said that some of the WebWorks will grade it wrong.
yeah, when it's a 5 is what you're looking at, like from here to here. If you were going to the
Okay, so
10th,
do we just leave it?
well, if it counts you wrong and you're thinking, I know that's supposed to be 437.3 and it counts you wrong, try 437.2 and see if it'll take it. But no, you're right.
Okay.
On some of them, and it only seems to be when it's a 5 after it, it seems to not be doing it correctly.
So is it
Okay.
consistent? Does it always seem to do it, or is it just sporadic?
The person that coordinates the WebWorks is telling me that it's consistent. I didn't figure out that pattern. I just knew every once in a while a student would show me and I'd say, you're right, the computer's wrong. You are absolutely right. But in a meeting we just had, he said it's pretty consistently doing it wrong. But
So should
remember,
we look at
we use a pool of questions, so it doesn't come up that often that you happen to have that and we don't all have the same question. So I just remember like 2 or 3 instances, a person showing me, aren't I right at saying I'm wrong? And I never picked up that that's what it was. You know, it's not like it's going to happen a bunch. It may never happen to you.
Okay. So if it does happen, should we go with what the computer thinks is correct or leave it what's actually correct?
You can fix it. Well, what I haven't told you is that as long as you do your work and you get over 95%, for the last 2 semesters, I've always been adding 5% to every score. So I accounted for that type of fluke anyway, as far as your grade. I just don't want you to think you're wrong. That case, you can ask me about it and I'll look at it. You know what I mean? So I can look at it for you to make sure you're right. I want you to know that you're doing the problem correctly. Because you're going to get your 100% anyway if it's just one problem. But I want you to make sure you know you're right. Hopefully you won't ever pull one like that. But chances are by the time it happens, you won't even remember this conversation. But we'll find out. Okay. They do have you round sum, stating round to the correct significant figure. There's a index in the back of the book that talks about significant figures. That is not the same thing as rounding to a certain decimal place. They shouldn't be doing that because they've taken it out of the text and put it in the appendix. A significant figure, you go to in the data, whichever one. Trying to find that one. Or is it in the front of the book, maybe? Well, I'm not finding that. Maybe they took it out altogether. Let's say you were given a data of 4.56 million and the other piece of data had 2.2 million. And your answer came out to be 1.3625 something. You go with the lowest number of significant digits in the data given. Since this only had 2 significant digits, this one has 3. Your answer can only have 2. I'm making it very basic for you, the rules. Okay, you're not going to have much of that on a test or quiz, and I will warn you on a test. And I will look out for you there because you should be told where to round it, not the significant digits. But it just goes with the lowest number. Okay? And I will also look for that appendix and let you know where it is or if they've taken it out. Okay. That's just a review on rounding. And again, you have a bunch. The book is divided into 2 sections. The front is the regular lecture. Behind this blue tab right here is things that can help you if you need to refresh on any of the basic skills, the prerequisite skills. Maybe you need to practice rounding. There's a whole bunch of practice for rounding back here, things like that. So then we went on to ratios. Already talked about you can show them in different ways with a colon, 2 per, with a fraction bar. To make a fraction into a decimal, numerator divided by denominator, top divided by bottom. And we can write it as a decimal. But when you make it a decimal, what does that mean? It means this was 4 out of 5 dentists prefer crest, 0.8 per 1 dentist prefer crest. Okay, that would mean 0.8 out of every 1 prefer crest. Okay, so again, just a quick review. To make a fraction a decimal, numerator divided by denominator. And to make a decimal a percent, percent means per 100. In word problems, part you're considering divided by the whole you're comparing to. So how do we do it? We can do it 2 ways. You can move the decimal 2 places to the right. A lot of people do it that way. Other people like to move it or to do it by multiplying by 100. So what does 0.8 become? You can type it or you can tell me. What is that as a percent?
80%.
80.
1.3 is what?
130.
And 0.042.
4.2.
You got it. Then we go the other way. If we were to make a percent a decimal, you're going to move it 2 places to the left or divide by 100. So if we had 76%, that would be,
0.76.
but if we had 3.2%, these are the ones people mess up. What would that?
0.032.
Yeah, that gets left out a lot. And a percent to a fraction. It's per 100, just 47 over 100, and then you could reduce it if you needed to. Decimals to fractions. Could start out with an easier one here. If you have 0.9, you just do your decimal places. This is the 10th spot. It's 9 over 10, right? And then reduce it. 0.75, that's tenths, hundredths. 75 over 100, reduce it. Now, if you forget tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths, this denominator, your non-zero digits become your numerator. The denominator is a 1, and however many places you have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 432 over 100,000, and then you reduce it. Okay? Yeah, so you never have to get the places wrong again. It's a 1 and however many places. Okay, something very important in your book that you may not think is important when you're reading it, and it is critical. It was on page 12 if you've got your book. It talks about part to part and part to whole. Can anybody tell me why this is important in quantitative reasoning?
One's a decimal, one's a percent.
One can be made into a percent and one cannot. Quantitative reasoning, you are going to be analyzing data and writing reasonable statements. A lot of you are going to hate that. I have people in the algebra-based classes that will always say, what does this have to do with real life? Well, and they get in 123, they say, please just give me an algebra equation. I don't care about real life anymore. Because in here, you will be asked to apply everything to real life, and you will be writing sentences, analyzing data, and there's not one right answer or one way to say it. You can't memorize it. Okay? And then people say, but what's the right way? There's not one right way. You have to analyze the data and say it in a meaningful way. What did you make of this data? Okay? But what you can't do is write gibberish. And when you have part to part, if you make that a comparison, a ratio of part to part into a percent, that is not mathematically sound. It makes absolutely no sense. But part to whole is very meaningful. It's probably the most meaningful way to write it is as a percent. And there are going to be times it's going to say you must give a percent comparison. In project 2 or 3, it says you must give 4. It's called relative change as a percent change. You're going to have to write and percent comparisons, and you can only write it if it's part to whole. Part to part compares two things that are parts of a whole. Part to whole is a part of a whole, just like it says. So for an example, let's just say there are 40 people at a meeting, 12 men and 28 women. These are both part of the whole 40, right? So a part-to-part example would be write the ratio of men to women. So what would that ratio be before it's reduced?
12 to 28.
Okay. I'm going to do it as a fraction. Does the order matter?
Yes.
Yeah.
It has to be men in the numerator, women in the denominator, the way they gave it to us. Now, if I were to reduce that, what would that be? As a fraction, it would be 3/7. Okay. So a meaningful sentence could be, for every 3 men in the room, there are 7 women. Now, that's not the only thing, and that's why some people don't like this. Somebody else could say there are 7 women for Every 3 men, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm getting my
Yes.
calculator. Sorry about that. Now, you can make this a decimal. I'd have to round it. This means about, because it's not equal, I'm rounding. I could even say there are 0.43 men for every 1 woman. Okay? But what I cannot say is there are 43% men to every woman. I can't do that. Okay? Can't do it. Because there are not 43% men in this meeting. Okay? It's not true. Okay? That's bad math. Okay? That's not the correct amount. They're actually 30%. Okay? Because this is a part to part, not a part to whole. But if we look at a part to whole, write the ratio of women to the total attendance, what would we write?
28 to 40.
Over 40.
Okay? And as a fraction, that could reduce to,
7/10.
so out of every 10 people in attendance, there are 7 women. That would be true, right? That would reduce to 0.7. This one we can say there 70% of the people at the meeting are women. That's a true statement. There's 70% women and 30% men. This is not a percent because it's part to part. This is part to whole. You're going to be analyzing data. You've got to make that distinction. Okay? And you're going to be writing meaningful sentences. Okay? Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can see that if you haven't looked at this, you're probably very confused. So some of you are saying, oh, I see why I need to look at this stuff ahead of time. Because we won't have this much time the next meeting because there's 3 sections. This was 1 section.
Starting route to 2820 and Meridian Street. Proceed to Norfolk.
Someone's driving. Okay. Age
Sorry.
dependence. That's okay. Just don't crash. Age
I'm not
dependency
driving.
ratios. Okay. Age dependency ratios. These are very specific ratios. Your book goes over, and this is real life. These are actually used by anybody, economic major, economist, going to be a in
No.
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 I don't think I've ever had one of those at Ivy Tech. They use these ratios to determine like the health of a country's economy or a society, because the dependents have to have somebody they depend on. An example, we already know as a country our Social Security was in trouble because the whole Social Security system was based on having a certain percentage of growth and younger people or working people to support the older generation. But as the older people stayed alive longer, that isn't going to happen. And I'm probably older than most of you out there. And I am not going to get Social Security at 65. My age group's already up to 70. While all my sisters get it at 60, I'm the youngest, they all get it at 65, but I'm in that group that gets bumped up to 70. Probably you guys will be bumped up to 75 before it's all over with because it can't be supported anymore. China is in a lot of trouble. If you recall, they had a limit of 1 child is all they could have. So now they have this big old age population and they don't have any middle group to take care of them. Now this is how they classify the dependents. Like I said, this must be worldwide because in no way does this apply to the U.S. They classify a child dependent as anyone under 15. That's what we go by. Now here it would probably be under 25. They live at home so long anymore. Not when I was growing up, it was 18 and you're gone, but now this is classified as under 15. I don't know many 14-year-olds that aren't or 15 that are not dependents. Old age dependents are classified as those 65 and over. That kind of makes sense. This will not be on your test. These definitions, these questions have always been on the test, and they're always at least 12 to 15 points. Series questions, it's at least a letter grade, so you have to know these. The age dependents, all that is saying who are the age, the old and the children. You just add them together, those under 15 and those 65 and older. Now, this is where people make most of the mistakes. On these ratios, the numerator will be for the child dependents. The numerator is going to be those under 15. The denominator, who do they depend on? Well, these are both ends of the age dependence. They depend on who's in the middle. The 15 to 64 is what they call, those are who they depend on, the workers you might want to call them, the people that support them. That's the child dependency ratio. You take the population, the number under 15, and divide it by the 15 to 64. The common error is you divide by the entire population. Well, they don't depend, the dependents don't depend on themselves. It can't be the entire population. It's those 15 to 64. So the old age dependents, what would the numerator be? Somebody already told us. Yep, because that's the question, 65 and over. And we always divide by the workers, 15 to 64. And then the age dependence ratio, these are all the ratios. You take under 15 and add at the 65 and over. You have to add it first and then divide by the 15 to 64. Okay? It's not that hard to remember. You don't even have to memorize it. You just learn it. It makes sense. The denominator is always that group between the dependents, that age group. The 15 to 64, the workers. The child dependents are under 15. The old age are 65 and over. The age is both of those together. Okay? So, 1, find the child age dependency ratio. 2, find the age dependency ratio. Now, in your homework, you have to add up a column of numbers. And it's going to give you an area of the country like Midwest, Northeast, Southwest. Make sure you get the right column. And add it twice. You got to add up a bunch of, in the table, a bunch of age groups. And then divide it out. I saw some of you got a 10 on a quiz. You can probably get it right now because most of the time you're dividing by the total population. Go back and divide by the 15 to 64 and you'll get it right. I think I gave you 4 attempts. Okay, so first let me see what you're going to divide by and then divide it out into a decimal. Let's round to the 1,000th. Okay. Okay, anybody got it? Or can tell me what to do?
I think I got the answer.
Okay, what did you divide?
I did the child age dependent as the numerator, is
80,000, right?
80,000, right? And then as the adult, the senior citizen one on the other side, I put the 60,000.
For the
And as the
child age dependency ratio, we need 80,000, and what do we divide by? The 15 to 64, right?
260,000,
Yep, the 260,000.
and then I did the 60. Oh, I divided that.
And then what do we get?
I didn't do it right.
Sounds like you did the next one.
Yeah.
307.
Well, that was 0.307.
Point Z through 3, and then I said round to the thousandth. It was 0.7, so it'll be 0.30031. Okay. Everybody see what we did there? Because it was just the child, it's the under 15, and we always divide by the 15 to 64. Okay. Now the age dependency, that is the under 15 plus the 65 and over, and we always divide by the 15 to 64. Okay. So we have 80,000 plus 60,000 divided by 260,000. 140,000 divided by.
I had 0.0538.
Yep,
0.38.
you are correct. Now, is this part to part or part to whole?
Part to whole. No, part to part.
These are both parts of the total population, right? So it's part to part. We cannot make this a percent. It wouldn't make any sense. So what kind of a sentence can you write? Because you will have to write a sentence on the test. Anybody got an idea?
There are 140,000 dependents to the working class.
You're very close to how many? Be specific.
260,000 working class.
Very good. Okay, now I would probably get a little more specific because this could reduce, right? We could cancel all these zeros, couldn't we? And then we'd have what? 14 over 26? That could reduce to what?
7 over 3. 7 over 13, I'm sorry.
Yeah. That would be probably a little easier to visualize. Yours was right. There was nothing wrong with it. But would this be a more meaningful? Could you visualize it better? For every 7 dependents, there are 13 working class to take care of. Or for every 13 workers, there are 7 dependents. And you can even use the decimal. The book uses the decimal a lot, but I don't think it's as meaningful. For every 1 worker, there is 0.5, about, you have to use about because we rounded, about 0.538 dependents. Or you could have rounded to about 0.5, right? So for every 1 worker, there's about 0.5 dependents. That's pretty easy to visualize, isn't it? It's not as accurate as this one, but it's close. That'd be 7 out of 14, but it's just rounded differently. We use the word about. You see how some people really struggle with that there's not one right sentence? Not one right way. But a definite wrong way, you can't use a percent at all on that one. So now if we go back here, let me switch it over. Now can you do your quiz question? So you'll be ready for your quiz.
I have a question on that last one.
Yeah. Go ahead. You need me to flip it back?
Yes, please, real quick. Sorry. I never know when to speak because I don't want to interrupt. Okay. For the child age dependency, would it not be 0.301? It's 0.031, or would it be 0.301?
Did I divide wrong?
Yeah, it's 0.301.
I think it's actually 0.308.
Or yeah.
We just did the one before because of the 7.
Yeah, I got 0.307.
You are correct. I have
308.
a mistake in my calculator. Thank you.
Yeah, 308. Okay. I was just trying to figure out how you came up with that, and I was not getting it. So
I left zeros out of my calculator somewhere. Yes, by all means, speak up. I left things out of my calculator, and I should have caught that mental math, but I was probably on to the next one. Thank you very much for straightening us out. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Who has this one?
It's C. Or
I
the
got
third
the last
option.
one. 0.558.
We're looking for the old age. So what is our numerator?
960.
Those over 65 and over. So 960, and who do we divide by?
The 15 to 64-year-olds.
Always the 15 to 64 on the age dependency ratios.
0.233.
There we go. And we got them all right on the quiz. So you should be ready for your quiz. Our time is up. For this week, you have to do a discussion board. It's about this session. Some of you were a little ahead of time. If you want to go back and make comments, you can now. You have WebWorks section 2. The orientation was optional. It was closed. If you're having troubles, I will open it if that may be helpful to some of you. But remember, the end parts you don't need to do. We don't have anything that complex. As long as you do your homework, section 2, I will give you the 7 points for the orientation, as long as you do your homework. And you have to have section 2 done. So that is this week by Saturday. That's due. Before class next week, and the quiz we just looked at has to be done. And before class next Thursday, you should have sections 3, 4, and 5 completed in your book. I strongly suggest the video lectures. I think they're fantastic. There are slides that can help you fill in, but the video lectures, I think she does a good job of explaining things. Also, attempt the WebWorks on those sections. Get most of it done. Come with questions. On the book, when you get to the last examples, don't worry if some of those don't make a lot of sense. There are the sections at the end are extensions that may not be tested on or may not be in the homework. So it's the basic ones in the middle, so don't stress over 1 or 2 examples at the end, the harder ones. And the same thing, don't spend an hour on a homework problem. If you don't get it, you look at the video, you don't get it, that's what you bring to class. I don't want anybody spending hours or seeing 50 or 60 tries on one homework problem. That's not a good use of your time. There is a lot of rounding issues. I will send out, I have an old email from last year that says number 3, most of them should round to the thousandths place. Number 6, try the hundredths place, because a lot of times they're not telling you. After section 3, it gets much better. The web works the way it's set up with rounding. It's just these first couple of sections that are pretty bad with the rounding. Any questions for me?
No.
No, ma'am.
All right. Have a great weekend and see you next week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.